All right, it's 10, Judge.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's 10 a.m. If you haven't already done so, we want to remind you to please turn off or mute all your cell phones and other devices. At this time, we'll ask David Darden to please lead us in prayer.
Let's bow our heads. Eternal God, our Father God, we come just to say thank you, God. God, we thank you for allowing us to make your wake up list. God, we thank you for each and every one that is gathered here today, God. We ask now, God, that you bless each and every official. God, we ask, God, that you continue to crown their heads with wisdom and knowledge for the furtherance and the betterment of this great county. God, we thank you for your many blessings. In Jesus' name we do pray. Thank God. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Darden. Madam Clerk?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, item number 2 is public comments. We have 2 people that have signed up to comment. Mr. Herschel McDonald, would you like to come forward?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm here this morning representing concerned citizens around the Midway Loop. We want to say, first off, that we don't think anything that has happened has been malicious on anybody's part. There are just sometimes things that fall together that cause some problems. Having retired from a state agency, I understand budget constraints, and I understand waiting on the next agency to get through their business before you can take care of your business. But I also understand that in the last few years, there's been a lot of interest in the commissioners' elections. We've changed a commissioner in the last election. We're changing at least 2 this time, one due to retirement. But it's important to people. And when you change a precinct line right at election time, and you take people out of one precinct and put them in another, that, intentional or not, is election tampering. Also, when you put the precinct line in the middle of a road, a county road, that helps to blur who's responsible for that road, whether it's this commissioner or that commissioner. And when you hit one of them up, he can say, oh, well, it's theirs. And then this one says, no, it's theirs. And that dilutes the accountability. And when you set that with county roads, instead of using a state road or a federal road, or even running it out through the woods, you cause some problems, especially right at election time. And I know y'all know the problems with people getting this notification between the primary and the runoff. And that caused some great problems. Now, the memo that was dated October the 12th, 2021 from y'all stated that our population gained 10.4%. Well, then it said that Precinct 1 had gained 18 and some odd %. But Precinct 3 had lost 12 and some odd %. Well, then you added those together and said we were over 30% off. Well, that's not the way a negative and a positive number fit together. How can you have 20% more problem when you than the 10% that we gained? In other words, we just gained 10.4%. How can we be 30% off? Well, when you've got a gain in one and a loss in the other one, why not just move the lines between those 2 precincts and work that out? Another thing with the precinct business, with Precinct 3 having to have a majority of minority. I understand federal regulations and what's going on there. So you put the reservation in there to take care of that. Well, the county, the precinct offices that we have, of course, the commissioner and the constable and the justice of the peace. On the reservation, they take care of their paved roads all within the reservation. And they also have their own police department, so there's very little interest in the commissioner or in the constable in that precinct. So the box that votes in the Indian reservation is usually very, very low in participation in the election because they don't care. Now, that's not putting any shade on them or anybody like that. But what that does, if they don't care, that dilutes the vote of the other minority that's supposed to be in the majority. And that's unintentional election tampering also. When we talk about what we do and how we do it, you know, with increasing the population, yeah, we went up 10%. How many miles of new county road did we put in? We did. Where the county road is what is the point of interest here and what y'all have to take care of. But we're moving according to the population. That's a problem too, because you got a great big area in precinct 3 and a little area in precinct 1, and you're talking about a difference in the miles of road. Do you divide the budget up according to that? Those are some considerations that need to be taken by y'all and look at redoing this. The people that live on the Midway Loop, we're not particularly mad at anybody. We understand budget constraints and that sometimes there's just not the money to do anything. But the mantra on the Midway Loop for years has been, if your teenager needs to have some sense shaken into it, take him for a ride on Midway Loop. And what we've got is people that want to have a say in who's looking after their road. We want somebody to be accountable. Now, you can dilute the vote by splitting that into 2 precincts, but you can't dilute the vote for the county-wide offices who ultimately are responsible, because we all get to vote on the county judge and those things. And we all also get to vote on the tax assessor collector and those things that are falling together with what went on with our election. We're not trying to throw shade on anybody. We're just asking you to stop and do the math. I know you hired somebody else to do the math, to do all of this. But if they can't add a positive number and a negative number together, they didn't go to the right school as far as I'm concerned. I thank you for your time and effort.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Mr.
Very much.
Michael Oldner.
Well, thanks for having me, but I echo everything Mr. McDonald just said. I live at the end of a 4-mile dirt road called Hubert Cemetery Road, which Precinct 4 has been taking care of for probably 100 years, I don't know. But when they redrew the line, I went and voted in the primary and was able to vote Precinct 4, but in the runoff, they said I've been thrown into Precinct 3. And that line stops about 1,000 feet from my gate. And that takes my vote away from, I'm the only one that lives on that road. And it just doesn't make any sense to me that I can't vote for somebody that's gonna be taking care of the road that I live on. And I understand it's in Precinct 3, but Precinct 4 is gonna be maintaining that road all the way to my gate. And I think I ought to have a vote on whoever is the commissioner for that precinct. But that, and everything else he just said, I just wanted to add that in there. That made no sense to me, to stop from here to that road out there from my gate with the line. There is no way Precinct 3 can reach that stretch of road from Corrigan there are no other public roads out there. I'm surrounded by RMS property. And it just can't be had. Am I right, Tom?
Yes.
So, I want my boat back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, and just, for note, we did, invite, Ms. Burks to come. Is Leslie here today? Okay, she's there. So we did, add the discussion, so it's agenda item number 6. Since it's in public forum, we cannot respond, but I did take some notes, and so we will try to answer some of those questions, if that's okay, so please stay. Okay, informational reports. We're gonna start with the warm and fuzzy good one. So I would like to introduce to you all Jaden Pace. He was a top winner of the Pine Ridge Healthcare and Rehabilitation Art Contest. With this sculpture of the courthouse, it's front and back. But furthermore, he is going to be recognized by one of our partnership groups, which is the Polk County Recycling and Beautification Group. And they would like to present Jaden with a certificate for his dedication to promoting recycling in the community. And this will leave this office and it will go to the museum so that they can do a display of his work as well. So we would like to ask the recycling committee to come up here along with Jaden and give him his presentation, and then we will take a picture with everybody. Come on up here, Jaden. Get up here by your artwork.
You get front and center.
Yeah, we're gonna go back here now.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to get further back.
Well,
The other side of the courthouse where they can see
oh, everybody's behind.
Yes, and then we're gonna take a picture with you.
Should I get
all
on the
back
other
here,
side
just
like
Jaden.
this?
There you go.
Is that better?
Hang on just a second, I'm trying to get the right spot.
So we want to make sure that we get this in.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be good.
Camera's off there.
Okay.
Congratulations. This is for you. Yeah? All right.
Would you like to tell everybody a little bit about your project?
What you use?
How long did it take you to make this?
About 45 days.
Okay. And what are some of the materials that you used in the,
Some styrofoam, cardboard boxes, paint, paper bags, different pieces of material from other types of boxes.
What's the grass made out of? It's really interesting.
It's made of paper bags and
Plastic bags.
plastic?
Yeah.
plastic bags with putting a fence over it to keep it in place when we painted it.
What did you put over it?
Like type of wooden, metal fence.
It's really neat.
Very, very creative.
Very cool.
Okay, thank you, Jaden.
Another round of applause.
Okay, thank you, folks. Yes. It doesn't, it's not heavy, at all. Jaden will pick it up on that end.
Yes, sir.
We'll take it out the same way it came in. Thank you very much. Okay, Government Finance Officers Association, the GFOA, Distinguished Presentation Award for FY 2022. Each year, Carrie Miller specifically prepares and submits the county budget for the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. And on behalf of the county. So she has received the award again for FY '22, but it should be noticed for everybody that now the GFOA includes performance measures. So every elected official, and these all relate to transparency in how you're utilizing taxpayer dollars, and so you must submit your performance measures to Carrie. So they've kind of given us a couple of years to get used to that concept, so. But I do want to say congratulations to Carrie and to Lewis and everybody that participated in us receiving that award. Okay, the spotlight on Polk County is our information technology department, so everybody needs to go take a look at what's available on our website that provides you with information that department performs. Okay, item D. This is an update for the court, and we are making a request as well. This is just kind of an update on everything that we have used our COVID monies to present and to utilize for the county. So the federal government was very specific in what the funds could be spent on and limited them to expenses that were directly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. So to date, we have utilized those funds for assistance to the school districts that would allow our children to be able to do their school work remotely and distance learning. We purchased a lot of IT hardware and software and communications that would allow county services not to stop during the COVID pandemic. So we did have teams of people working remotely, and then teams of people that were in the offices. We also did building and HVAC upgrades. We got the units that would clean the air as it came through the building, and those will continue to help us now during flu season or during other sickly times. We did vaccine clinics and administration. We did COVID hazard and overtime pay, and we did judicial relief to keep cases moving in the DA's office and the county court at law. We all know that we're in transition right now, and so we're gonna have a new district attorney coming in January, and also a lot of cases, a very large backlog of cases that have affected the jail and are affecting the district court level. And so at this time, part of what we're going to do is, when we're reviewing this information, is Judge Underwood, who's a regional judge, has appointed Judge Casey Jones to assist the district judges in moving these cases forward. So in essence, we will have another judge working. So we do have to say thank you to Bobby for being willing to help us and to participate as well, because it has a huge ripple effect. And so we will be utilizing COVID funds to cover the rest of the portion of Judge Jones's salary, along with providing space, ancillary staff, paying for attorneys, jury supplies, and everything that will make that court successful, so we can create relief as quickly as possible. So that said, we've reviewed our COVID funds. We at one time had discussed providing some monies, some COVID relief monies to our volunteer fire departments. And so with the court's blessing, we would also like to commit $50,000 as a one-time COVID payment to be distributed evenly among the fire departments. Everything else is basically an informational item. That does not put us in any kind of jeopardy, but those volunteer fire departments provide an essential service to all of our communities, and we feel like that we can do that and still be able to do the court. Is that okay with everybody? Very well, then we will proceed. We will notify them today.
Motion to approve.
No,
That's
sir, it's
just money.
COVID, yeah, it's COVID
Okay.
funding, so we just wanna make sure that we keep the court informed every step of the way. Okay, item number 4, old business. This was tabled from the last meeting. Consider approval upon conditions met or rejection of Falcone Forest Section 4 subdivision application, which is located in precinct 4. Commissioner Overstreet.
Everything's been met, so motion to approve. Second.
Motion to approve Commissioner Overstreet, second Commissioner Purvis. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 5, new business, consent agenda. You have an addendum on B. Addendum number 1 in the amount of $1,318.89. Addendum number 2 in the amount of $138,016.54. And addendum number 3 in the amount of $11,702.47. Is there anything on the consent agenda that anybody wishes to pull?
Motion approved.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Vincent, second Commissioner Robertson. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 6, discussion of precinct boundary lines. Let me back up a little bit. Basically, in terms of the court, what we were told is, when you're talking about the math, that it's the spread. There could only be a certain amount of variation between each precinct. And it's based, according to federal standards, strictly on population. That's the only measure that can be taken into consideration. And we certainly agree with you that it has created a wide range in terms of mileage and acreage, which is also part of the workshop that we're going to do today, is trying to find an equitable way of distribution of tax dollars in terms of the commissioners. I certainly have gone through and made some note of your concerns in terms of the roads, and that is something that the commissioners themselves can sort out. The federal government requires us to follow federal census blocks. And some of those federal census blocks make absolutely no sense at all. But basically, it's a predetermined block that if you take that block into precinct 4 or 3 or 2 or 1, then the whole block has to go into that group or that boundary line. So that being said, let me see, and we did hire somebody else to look at it and to do the funny math with the way that the federal government has laid it out, what the requirements are. And I will say that the court tried as much as possible to be conscious about not creating too many changes that would disrupt too many people, so when precinct 1 had to get smaller because they were over the requirements, and precinct 3 had to get larger, again because of population, then that was where what we asked them to do is locate those census blocks that would not shift everything so that, 80% of the people in Polk County would be changed or adjusted. Now, with regards to the voting, we asked Ms. Burks to come explain or let us know kind of what occurred in terms of the voting, the elections.
May I comment?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
This is basically a dispute between box 12 and box 14. I've got a current map right here.
Are we talking about voting boxes?
Voting boxes.
Okay.
I've got a current map right here of what was adopted for 20.
Okay.
When I look at this map, and then this is the 2010 map, they're the same. These people that live on Midway Loop, on the north side of Midway Loop, have been voting in 4, when the map has depicted 3 since 2010, actually since in 2000. Now how that, this is the first time this has been brought up, because in the primaries, y'all got to vote, when you went to vote for the runoff and Commissioner Precinct 4 primary, they said y'all were in Precinct 3 and you couldn't vote. Well, that's what I've been digging into, is the previous maps and how y'all have never been changed. Y'all have never been changed until now. But the maps have been adopted. This is a 2010 map. And everybody, the road has always been the precinct line.
Yep.
And I don't know how, unless it just finally got caught up after 10 years. I don't know. I don't have the answer.
But I mean, we do the
Yes,
same
please.
thing on Oakdale Loop too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, one side's mine, one side's Tommy. I maintain it, like Midway, Tommy maintains it, we all know that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Well,
not,
But like it shows the creek there, the Mr. Pope's place, where we put where the bridge is. It runs down the road to the creek and goes up the creek to the new bridge going to your place. And everything, I guess, west and north of that has always been, according to this map, in precinct 3. Now, Bo and them have always voted in 4, and it shows it on the map there, that it goes in Treadway Loop. But they're like y'all, they live on the left side of that road, or the west side of that road. So I don't know how everybody's been voting all these years down that road, and we'll see.
Honestly, I can't speak for 10 years, well, it's been
Well,
over 10 years.
I have to.
I wasn't doing voter registration in those years. I worked with the tax office for almost 31 years. I was in automobile registration at that time. I will say, when we did this census, I got with our mapping lady, and bless her heart, she gave me an Excel spreadsheet of every address in Poe County. I went from street to street and road to road, and, because I had to make sure you were in the right school district, if you were in a city, or even if you were in a utility district. I had to make sure, but I have gone road by road with her Excel spreadsheet. And I know if I have anyone calling over, checking on their voter registration recently, they match. I had one gentleman that did it this morning, but it's because they had, on his address, they had him in the north, on the north end of the street instead of the south end of the street. Well, that was a quick fix. But as of right now, like I said, with Linda and I working together with all of this, we straightened it out. Now, like I said, last time, they didn't have an Excel spreadsheet. I do know that. And the former tax assessor had grief trying to get all these streets and roads fixed.
So I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you all been voting, so you all have been voting in that box? I'm not the commissioner, so I don't know exactly where every road is. So you all have been voting in that box for 10 years,
Correct.
correct?
And when they did the census,
That
didn't really
that
change
boundary
that.
didn't move.
The boundary didn't
The
move.
commissioner's court did not move that boundary.
That boundary hadn't moved.
it hasn't moved. I didn't know that until Tommy brought that to my attention.
And I didn't know it until they said they couldn't vote in the runoff.
And I'll tell you, the law firm they used to do this sent me a shape file. When I opened it, I can't open shape files. I had to send it to the mapping lady. And like I said, she's the one that opened it, gave me what I could, well, she actually printed me out a large map. But,
Is there any way to keep these people, because there's not that many residents down through there in precinct 4 like they were currently voting in the primary?
Okay, it's not precinct 4, it's gonna be the voting box.
The
No,
voting
it
box,
needs voting
voting box
precinct
14.
Okay, 14.
Can you keep them in 14?
it would
I
have
don't
to
think
be
so, I think
totally
that the federal
redrawn.
census does not
The
allow
lady,
that.
the election judge told me that I was in 16 and it got bumped to 12. That's the reason why I couldn't vote.
So you weren't in 16. That's what
See,
you,
it's totally
I
confusing.
grew up in 16. The 16 stopped at Soda. Y'all have always been on box 14 out
First she
there.
told me I was in precinct 16. I said, never heard of that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, it's confusing there.
Well, it depends on who you ask. If you ask what precinct, some of them, their voting boxes are the precincts instead of the commissioner boxes.
But our cards explain that they don't accept anymore.
So what is your office doing to correct some of the voters that are not in, you know, that have been moved or that are not able to now vote in a runoff? I guess I don't understand how you can vote in January but then not vote in a runoff
When
for
we
the
had
same
all
spot?
of- When we did the voting cards,
Uh-huh,
since it was kind of later in the year to try to get all these boundaries changed, I had the Secretary of State hounding me like crazy. When are you gonna get it done? When are you gonna get it done? I bet you I had at least 2 phone calls a day. Cause they want those voter cards out by a certain day. And ours wasn't, because I was trying my best to get all these roads changed. After 8 maps and Linda's Excel spreadsheet, it took me until well after the cards went out. So now, like I said, everybody's according to spreadsheets and her maps. That's where, the boundaries are.
So they
And
did
I had
call
to go
me,
fix them.
call me back and tell me that I could come in and vote on provisional
Provisional.
ballot. But my understanding is that doesn't count until it comes down to nitty gritty, then it has to be judged, whether it's a vote or not. I don't know, it just doesn't make any sense to me that you can't vote for the person that you want
So-
to take care of your road.
so basically what you're saying is that those voting boxes have been incorrect all this time.
Well over 10 years.
That's what I've come up with on
Me and
this.
Tommy have
Yeah.
both went over
I
the
mean,
maps.
Okay, hold
We've
on.
known this, I mean, me and Tommy's talked about it multiple times, but there's nothing we can do to change it, it's the federal government says this is the line.
Yep, now is the one that's got it.
I mean,
We're not able to
me and
use the
Tommy-
state highway unless we drop y'all all the way down to 190, and then you're gonna be in precinct 3. And that's the way they originally tried to do it in 2000, and we were going through the same thing, what I understood out there in 2000 when Dick Hubert was commissioner.
Right.
He wanted to keep the loop, or the people out there wanted to keep it in 4.
Yeah.
But that's what they originally wanted to do, was go straight to Tyler County on 190.
Let Mr.
Go-
McDonald. talk.
Yes, sir.
I have two quick things. One thing is, if we drop it to 190, that's all right. We're still a voting block that can vote for one commissioner. We're not able to hand the accountability back and forth to
Yeah.
22 commissioners. And the other thing is this outfit we hired for 2020 the same outfit we hired in 2010?
Yes, sir, but the point is that those lines were drawn in 2010.
What I understand about, what I'm
So
saying
I-
is,
you know, I don't
these people
understand-
been doing crazy math for a long time.
Yes, sir, and they are based very strictly on the federal government, and so we cannot, for the very thing that you're saying for voter tampering, we cannot just move things. And at our level, of course, when we do the precinct lines, it's the precinct lines themselves, for the 4 commissioners, right, then those precinct lines are supposed to line up with whatever voter boxes that they determined, based on the size of the voter box. So there's also parameters, and Shalana can help me out here with this, that there can only be X number of voters per voting box as well. And so when those lines are determined, that's also federal, requires federal notification and going that far back. What I'm trying to figure out is if those lines were determined 10 years ago,
20 years.
then why are they, or 20 years ago, why are they just now becoming an issue? And why are we just now correcting, or that's my concern. My question is why this was not corrected many moons ago?
20 years ago.
Yes, sir.
I think
Emily?
we ought to throw a
Emily.
grandfather clause in there.
That'd be nice if I could just pick up the phone and say, hey, we're applying a grandfather clause in Polk County. You federal people, go away, sit down, shut
I
up.
think the biggest concern though are these voters, because even if it's been wrong for 10 years, 20 years, however long, and even if it needs to be corrected, that's fine and dandy, but you don't correct it between a primary election and a runoff election.
Yep.
That's, no, you don't do that.
I was instructed by the state, I had to get them fixed, so I fixed them.
Does the state know? that
Secretary
people
of State.
voted for one thing in the primary and they can't vote for that thing in the
Yes, ma'am,
runoff?
that's Secretary of State. That's who I have to answer to every day.
I just have a hard time believing that the Secretary of State's office would sign off on that and consider that legal.
That's what I was instructed to do.
I mean, I'm obviously not, I'm just like y'all. I'm disturbed about it. And I think over the years, there might have been a couple of people that voted in 3 on the north side of that road and some that didn't.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like.
Because there's part of them on around by, Mr. Wells's place, the people that live over there between the cattle guards, right in there, some of them voted in 3.
There's a couple of them did. 'Cause
That voted in 3.
They're around Abilene Road.
Yeah, between Abilene and Mr. Polk's place over there.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, Abilene's always been in 3. And it went down County Line Road to the creek and then went up Woods Creek through to your place.
But it's,
So
Because
Leslie,
when your wife, when she called and I pulled this map, I looked and I seen that road extending on into that other voting box going into your place and you're the dead end, so.
yeah.
so Leslie, could you check with the Secretary of State today? And since this is election day, and see, what other, possibilities they are. I mean, even if what happens is that these people that have been impacted, if they could do provisional ballots for now and see what the Secretary of State has to say, so that we're not.
We gotta vote again in November.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'll check with them.
Yeah, that
I'll be
would be
glad to.
great, if all of you all could leave your, names and phone numbers, then Leslie can contact you and let you know what the Secretary of State had to say. How many of you have already done a provisional ballot?
My wife and I both did.
Early voting mean, is that a provisional?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Provisional is when they make you.
You fill
No,
out
in the
this
runoff.
card. You got-
No, you ran that for us.
Huh?
You got it all fixed for us.
What?
You did the provisional and the rest of us got to vote correctly.
Oh. Huh.
So, I mean, they put us in the box.
Well, that's
Okay.
what my wife said, but
So y'all done voted, y'all had to vote in 3, or they let y'all vote in 4?
they let them vote in 4. And that's why I asked my wife, I said, you have to fill out one of them cards? She said, no.
No, we didn't.
So y'all's address, y'all's voter's card hadn't been changed yet.
That I have no.
Well, it had, but when I went in there to vote.
I'm talking about
Monday-
Mr. Polk now.
No, it was 14.
You're still in
Yes,
14,
it was 14.
but
'Cause
you
I
in
went-
12.
When I went in to vote Monday, and the commissioner runoff didn't pop up, I started asking questions. And the people in there were very nice, and they said, I'll call you tomorrow. But first they tried to call you, but it was late. And, so he called me the next day, said I could come in and vote provisional ballot. So I did that. And, I told my wife what she's gonna have to do. And, she said she didn't have to fill out one of them cards. They just changed the, let her vote. I'm not supposed to be saying it.
That voting is actually hers. I just do the registration.
Which includes the address, right?
They went on ahead because they voted in the primary, went on ahead and let them vote.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right,
so.
right.
Yeah.
We didn't have any
Well,
problem.
that makes sense.
So if we could get you all, whenever you do decide to leave, you're more than welcome to stay, but when you do decide to leave, if we could get y'all, you want Becky to get those names and addresses for you?
That'd be good.
Then we'll get you to exit this direction and get you to give your name, address, phone number, whatever, contact information to Becky. And we will relay that information to Leslie so she can check and see what, the state has to say.
But y'all have done voted, right?
We've already voted.
Yeah.
I'm voting today.
Oh, you're voting
I'm
today?
gonna vote today. So that's all I was like, can I vote, you know, for which one do I vote for? Are they gonna
Well,
vote me?
I know you can do the provisional ballot. And I don't know how all this works, really. But
Because then we have land on both sides, then we'll have one and one.
It's wherever your address is though.
It's whatever your residential.
Residential
Right.
is.
Address is.
That means we can pitch a tent across the road every 2 years.
As long as you're getting your homestead exemption there, then you're fine. Okay, thank you, Leslie, we
Thank y'all.
appreciate it.
And I will call and check on that.
Do you mind letting us know so we know what the answer to the question is?
Yeah, please.
Perfect, thank
And
you.
in fact, I'll probably go over there right now and start calling, because sometimes, especially on election day, it takes a while for them to get back.
Well, and that would be great, and in the meantime, when these people leave, then we will go ahead and get the information for you.
Okay, and like I said, it's gonna take probably a while, election day, for them to get back with me.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, item number 7, consider approval of personnel matters as follows. Review and consideration of personnel action form requests that were submitted since the last meeting and review of any authorized emergency hires. We have no emergency hires at this time, and we included all the preliminary listing of PAFs in your packet.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Purvis, second Commissioner Vincent, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 8, discuss and consider any and all changes to the personnel management system as follows. Item A, retiree health benefits. Our current policy reads that if someone retires, when there was no cap on the health insurance, then now if they come back to work with us, then they are subject to a cap on their health insurance. And so we have some former employees that are interested in returning. However, they don't want to then be subject to the cap on the health insurance. And so what we would like to do is propose that we remove that if someone returns after full retirement, then they not be subject to the cap on their health insurance and be able to return as full-time employees.
If they come back, go back to work, we gotta pay them full price on their insurance anyway.
Well,
Yeah,
our
we're ahead.
insurance would cover them,
Yeah,
but nevertheless, their retiree benefits would not be capped.
But like I say, we're still, if they come back and go back to work, it'd be the same thing.
Yes,
They're
sir.
full deal, just won't be capped when they leave again.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we're changing. They would come back as full employees.
Motion approved.
Commissioner Overstreet, Commissioner Robertson, any further questions or discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, merit pool. On October 8th, 2021, the board selected a committee to review and provide recommendations to revise and look at our merit pool policy. Basically, the current policy is not working as it was originally intended. So even though the process itself was shortened in June 2019 to see if that would make it less time consuming, it's still not working the way it should. So the committee recommended doing away with the evaluation form as a requirement for a raise and instead adopting a discretionary raise policy. So elected officials and department heads would be able to utilize the funds available in their budget for discretionary raises. They would not be merit raises anymore. Still with a 2-step or 1-year cap as they see fit. So this would allow them to award employees that have been loyal to their department without having to say that they've gone way above the baseline. So even with the merit pool line item, large departments are still benefiting more than smaller departments from the current merit pool system. So that would eliminate that. And so the recommendation from the committee also is to revise our longevity policy to provide a benefit directly from the board or the county rather than from individual elected officials or department heads. So this would provide better incentive. According, the committee agreed that the longevity would create a better incentive for employees to stay in terms of long-term in the event that their department does not have sufficient funds for discretionary raise. So, so we've gone through, we put those changes in there. And so basically what I'm going to do is take longevity and merit pool together, because those two issues are combined. So then you'd have a pool line item for all departments to utilize when they were interested in doing discretionary raises. So then with longevity, again, this comes from the same committee. Several options were discussed and developed that would provide greater longevity benefits that would pay out to employees based on their effective longevity date. So part of what happens with our longevity is somebody that comes in and is employed immediately after the year has begun of when longevity, when they're eligible for longevity. If they come in immediately after, then that full year may roll around and they're still not eligible for longevity. Okay, so then a whole nother year has to roll around before they're eligible for 1 year, when in fact they've been there almost 2. So the idea with the longevity was to go ahead and make it based on their employment date. So if you get hired October 3rd, right after we've closed the budget, then you become eligible for your longevity check on October 3rd. Instead of having to wait for a whole 2-year cycle to come around. We spoke to the treasurer's office, and she's right here, so you can double check whether, but she said that was due. So we included various options for you all to consider and for you to look at. And we gave you the budget impact that would occur. And so you have different options for the longevity policy. Our current policy is $60 a year for years of employment, and it caps out at $1,200 per year. And so then what we did is we went through and we gave you should have scenario.
It's not in the deal. It's like the 4 different scenarios.
No, we don't have.
Yeah.
Well, it's the one we sent y'all ahead of time, but we will get you copies. Okay, so let me kind of review what we went through. So what we did is we came up with multiple scenarios in terms of what the possibilities would be. And the goal would be, according to everybody that has discussed it, including to all of you all as well and other elected officials, that the goal is to be able to hold on to employees that are in that 5 to 15, 20-year bracket, right? Because those are your most productive employees, and those are the employees you're trying to hold on to. So basically what we did is we wanted to front load it. Everybody needs one, Carrie. Okay. So you have, and then, one of the suggestions was coming up with a cap, of $3,000. If we do that cap, it does not have that big of a impact on the budget. So what we did was we went through and we said, okay, the only way for us to compare the budget impact from 1 year into the future would be to pretend like nothing else changed. We know things are gonna change, we know people are gonna come and go and so forth, but to be able to compare apples to apples instead of apples to boat paddles, right? That was the only way for us to do it. So if you look at scenario number 1, anyone that comes to their 2-year anniversary would get $300 given to them on that date. Everybody that works for 2, 3, and 4 years would automatically get the $300. Then ages 5 through 9 would get $600. People that work years 10 through 14 would get $900. And in that case, scenario number 1, we just did incremental $300 each year. Scenario number 2 we doubled. We said you would go from 300 to 600, from 600 to 1,200, from 1,200 to 2,400, and then at year 20, it tapers back to an additional $300 per year. And in that case, you would max out at $3,300. Scenario number 3 is $500, $1,000, and it does the same thing. It doubles incrementally, and then when it gets to year 15, it's an additional $500. In that case, you would cap out at $4,000. And then scenario number 4, basically the same thing, cap out $4,800. So you see the totals. If you look at the totals, the 2023 total at our current is $105,000. Under scenario number 1, it would be $144,240. Scenario number 2, $187,000, not quite $188,000. And scenario number 3, almost $276,000. So it's gonna, what I need is for the court to direct me, if we're interested in doing a complete change in our longevity policy like this, then obviously it has a budgetary impact in terms of how we move forward. I am gonna tell y'all that right now, our people are, everything we've done for the last 2 years to increase salaries is been wiped away by inflation. So with inflation at 7.5%, we are going to have to provide monies for our people. What does that mean for us? That means that we're gonna have to shift some things in different directions that we did not originally intend to do. It means that we're gonna have to go into the general fund, and pull some of that money to utilize it in other areas, because it's not sustainable. So I think that if we change the longevity policy first, well, then that is money that will be coming to employees regardless of who the elected official is or who the department head is, and it creates a more equitable distribution of longevity pay. So, scenario number 1 is obviously very, very conservative. Scenario number 2 is workable. Scenario number 3 is workable. Scenario number 4 is probably too much, at least for now.
Need a motion?
Yes, sir, if you have a selection or you wanna discuss one of them.
I like scenario 3 myself.
I'll second that.
What do y'all think?
If we're looking at that, plus the
What's the 30-year
cost,
cap?
we're looking at that, plus the cost of living raise
Yes, sir.
down the road, then 4 would be nice, but it's gonna be stretching it too much.
It would hurt us.
I'll
What it
go
costs
with
of
3.
living, yeah.
Okay, so Commissioner Purvis, you're bringing that as a motion? And I have a second from
Scenario
Commissioner
3,
Vincent?
30-year cap.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That, in essence, your employees that stay with you for 30 years or more would get $4,000 longevity. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so now, let me back up. So, basically, with the merit pool, it would then be replaced with longevity. But the change would be also that we would just create a line item that would allow for discretionary raises within a department.
If funds are available.
If funds are available, correct. And so then that way, you're still staying within the parameters of the monies, your taxpayer monies, you're still being just using those in a discretionary manner. And then also what that would allow us to do is in a budget year, when funds are available, then we would be able to put money into that discretionary fund for each department or elected official to utilize at their discretion.
One question back on this longevity. Is that gonna be distributed on anniversary dates?
Yes, sir, on the anniversary date of that person.
That person, so that's starting after October first?
After October
After
1st.
October first would be the anniversary date?
Yep,
Okay. Just want to clarify that.
yes, sir.
It's just
And we think that that will simplify it all the way
It
around,
will.
also for HR. Then HR doesn't say, now, hold on just a minute, that was this, not there, they're eligible here, but not over there. So that simplifies the whole
You've only
thing.
been here 11.5 months, you don't get it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
If you've been here 11 months and 28 days,
don't
you
get it.
don't get it.
And that's a one-time payment.
Yes, sir. Each year, they're gonna get their longevity pay for that year.
Birthday check.
Hey, your birthday check till Christmas. Birthday check now.
And we did several things, if you'll recall. It used to be the longevity check was given in January. Well,
Backed it up.
and then we backed it up because we had employees that wanted to take advantage of Black Friday sales. Well, it was based on January, so then we had to back up and give people money in November, December. So then we lined it up with our own fiscal year. So we've done everything we can to manipulate it and maneuver it. And so I think this is a better solution.
Retirement comes out of that also.
Yes, sir.
Income tax.
Everything, income tax and retirement will have to come
Ain't no
out of it.
free one.
Okay, so we will go to discretionary raises. Now I'm backing up to B. Go to discretionary raises with a discretionary line item, and if monies are available, then we will put discretionary monies in that department's budget. Now, I do wanna say that we're gonna keep the discretionary monies on a separate line item for those departments. And this is the reason why. If you have a small department and you feel like it will create more conflict than it will solve to give only one person out of 3 a raise, and you wanna hold on to your money for 3 years so that nobody is upset in your department, then you will be able to hold on to your discretionary monies. If you have 1 year where you feel like that you have too many people that are new to the department and that you're not comfortable giving them raises, then you hold on to your discretionary raise money. So that does not get swept out, it just bills for the discretion of that elected official.
It's gonna be just kinda like we are, Bowden Bridge right
Correct.
now, for all departments.
Correct. Okay. I need a motion to approve
So
that.
moved.
I'll second.
Commissioner Overstreet, Commissioner Robertson. Any discussion or questions on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 9, consider request for revisions and amendments to the budget as follows. The FY 2022 budget revisions and amendments is presented by the county auditor's office. A copy of the proposed revisions, number 2022-13, and amendments, number 2022-13A, is included in your packet for your review. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Commissioner Vincent, Commissioner Overstreet, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10, consider request for capital purchases to be paid from general fund balance and included on the FY 2022 reimbursement resolution for year-end issuance of legally authorized debt. Tax notes as follows. Approval to repair the floors at the sheriff's office pursuant to local government code section 252.022. A less amount to be paid by insurance not to exceed $53,200. So the court approved to include the repair and replacement of the floors at the sheriff's office on the capital projections for 2022 in the amount of $66,100. That's the bid that maintenance, and the bid that maintenance has now received is for $73,086.48. Once again, we're back to inflation, and we all know that the cost of everything has increased. So a copy of the proposal is included for your review. However, a portion of that would be paid by the insurance company, and the total cost to the company is not to exceed $53,200. Lynn Fairbanks is still searching for where the water is coming from that has created these problems in the sheriff's office, and he's having difficulty finding the source of the water leak. So his recommendation is that if he cannot find the source, that we go ahead and install a sump pump that will divert that water away from the building and proceed with the repairs. Is that the way you understand it, Jay?
Yes, ma'am, I was out sick yesterday, but I did stay in contact with Mr. Fairbanks on that. And rather than just doing a guessing game of where that water's coming from and diverting it all, we're actually gonna create a sump pump right next to the source in that room. By doing that, we're gonna explore and try to find a broken pipe, try to find some source. And if not, then we already have the hole available to turn it into a sump pump at that point and just let the water be pumped from that. Basically, if we can't find the problem, this is gonna be our solution. And right now, we haven't been able to find the problem. The problem is, we've got one pipe that water's just coming up out of, and it's only 1.5 inches above the floor level, but the other end of that pipe is 10-foot drop, and it's not coming out the other end of that pipe. So scientifically, and any way you put it is, this water's going uphill, and the only thing we can figure is, we know that was built on an underground stream, the jail was, and at some point it's holding enough water that it's pushing up through that pipe. So that's why we're trying to find the problem of the broken pipe. And if we can't find that, like I say, the only other solution is to just divert what water is coming. It's not that much, but when we had that rain this weekend, it was just enough to get things wet in there.
Again.
This new flooring will hold up to that. We just have to still get away from the water when it does come in.
In times of drought, does it ever stop or slow down?
It has stopped for 6-7 months at a time, maybe. And as long as we've had this drought, this little bit of rain this weekend, it leaked again. We may have the rain for the next few days and it may not leak. I just want to say, we just can't find
There's no rhyme
what
or
it's
reason.
doing. No rhyme or reason to it.
But it should be the plumbing in the building. Since
We know it's not the plumbing.
Since it does stop.
Yes, it does stop, so we know it's not the plumbing. And like I say, if it's just a pull down there and it gets enough pressure that it pushes up through that pipe, that's the only thing all of us can come up with. We've had architect, engineer, and like I say, Jeremy Zimmerman's come out and helped us look at it, Lynn Fairbanks. And like I say, the last thing, talking to Lynn Fairbanks yesterday is twofold, is we go ahead and dig the hole, try to find it. If we can't, we use the hole for the sump pump. And I'm getting a bid on that, waiting on a bid for that to come in now.
Okay, thank you, Jay.
Yeah.
So, that building is exempt from bidding because of the unforeseen damage to public property. So we would like to proceed and at least allow the jail and sheriff's staff to not have a slippy slide inside their building. Yes, sir, motion to approve. Need a second, Commissioner?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 11, consider approval of offers to purchase tax foreclosed properties as follows. We have one in precinct 2, Commissioner Vincent,
Motion to sell, please.
and we have one in precinct 3, Commissioner
Motion to
Perez.
sell.
Very well, you have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 12, consider a request from precinct 2 Commissioner Ronnie Vincent to utilize disaster recovery mitigation funds in the amount of $194,000 for the partial rebuild and repair of county roads and culverts that were impacted by the tornado in April of 2020.
Don't you already have
No, we put it in.
Put it in a line item. Ms. Guyleen was able to utilize some of it also, thankfully. And so we've done a lot of work over the last 2 years out there in the different areas, not just one subdivision, in several areas. And we're asking for a partial reimbursement, and then I still got some roads that I'd like to work on, Yopon Cove, a little bit off of Triple Creek Loop, and then a little bit there off of 3459. And I was just seeing if the court would allow us to utilize those funds that are coming from the line item that we set forth for that.
For the tornado.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Purvis, Commissioner Overstreet, all in favor say aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, with the indulgence of the court, I'm gonna skip 13 because that's the budget workshop, and I know that one's gonna take a little while. Let's go to 14. Item number 14, consider any and all necessary action regarding RFP 2022, pre-position contracts for emergency disaster debris removal, reduction, disposal, and other debris-related services. So the court approved to begin the procurement process for disaster debris removal and other debris-related services on March 8th, 2022. Proposals were reviewed by selection committee meeting, and let's see, Commissioner Overstreet, I believe you were on that committee.
Yeah, we had a scoring committee from throughout the county, all cities represented. Primary contractors, TFR, we used them back in 2008, and then the secondaries, VRC. That's the recommendation of the committee.
So does that come from a motion,
It sure does.
from you?
Motion to approve those two.
Commissioner Overstreet, second Commissioner Purvis.
Now, is
Any-
one primary, one secondary, or
Yeah.
is it?
You
Yeah,
always
one-
have a primary and then a backup.
And these two here had the lowest rates, if you look at that sheet on the total cost, so. And rating them through the state, you pretty much have, you have to have a really good reason not to go with low bidder. And TFR was low bidder, so. That's our recommendation.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 15, consider acceptance of proposed funding to Polk County for the East Texas Council of Governments DEDCOG method of distribution for the Regional Mitigation Program, part of the State of Texas Community Development Block Grant, Mitigation Action Plan. So, GLO allocated for the 7 Harvey counties, $161,542,000 for development, for the mod. If you will recall, if you've watched the news, we've had to fight and squabble with Harris County in Houston because they want our money. And we didn't wanna let them have it, and we were victorious. So, we've got the Regional Mitigation Program as part of the state CDBG Mitigation Action Plan, and Polk County is included as a potential recipient of funding, and in the amount of $17,098,000. So that should provide a lot of relief to all of our commissioners for roads. So now you're gonna start having to crank out projects as quickly as you can. This amount is subject to change as the public participation process is completed, but we've already been through one hearing, and now the next hearing will go through June 2nd, the public hearing, and then the final approval by GLO. At this time, the mod, as it has been presented by the 7 county judges, has been approved by GLO, and so now we'll go through the public hearing process. There are a couple of requirements that must be met with the CDBG, MIT requirements. Then the state is required to reach a certain threshold that is tied to benefiting low to moderate income persons. And so, just slightly under 6 million of our $17 million will have to be used for projects that benefit those people that are currently on money. But that's not difficult for us to do.
You need a motion?
Yes, ma'am, I need a motion, the copy of the letter was received, and we've already told them that we would approve, but we would like a motion to
Make the motion.
to show.
Second.
Commissioner Robertson, Commissioner Vincent, any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. If any of you all wanna go in and do public comment, you can do it through the GLO. Yes, ma'am, do you have something you'd like to add? Yes, ma'am?
The changing of the voters.
You wanna get up here so the mics can pick you up, Leslie?
I called and got a hold of the legal department, Secretary of State's office, and they said we did it properly. The minute I found out that, you know, where the voting lines were and different precincts, the commissioner precincts, they had to be changed. And when
Can we go back and change those lines?
I did not ask them that.
No, they've been submitted to the federal government. We've gone through the federal approval of where those commissioners, where the 4 precincts. Let me separate the 4 precincts and the voting precincts. But the 4 precincts cannot be changed because we've sent those on to the federal government.
And
Now, the voting, I don't know what kind of criteria or possibilities there are there. But I'm gonna say no because the precinct lines
they've already been drawn.
have
and
been
accepted by the
drawn
court.
and sent to the federal government for approval, but they were basically almost the same precinct.
They were the same on this map in 2010.
And that's what he said. He
It's
said
just the-
even,
the
you know, if
addresses.
it didn't get changed then, when I had the spreadsheet and was able to change everyone's address, he said I did it properly.
Yeah, it was done correctly.
So where is our vote going to count that we cast early?
That would be her. She's over
Will
voting.
it get counted?
I'm on voter registration. I just make sure everybody's registered and in their proper
That's,
precincts.
okay, so Shalana is saying that's not gonna change. If she placed you in that voting box, well then she has to honor that.
But now, y'all say y'all voted
But
in
that's-
4 the other day.
Yeah, they're voted in 4 the other day. Somebody manually fixed it.
Yes,
for
ma'am,
them.
but you voted in 4.
Well, they told us that go to a certain machine for 4,
Okay, well,
but voting 14.
we're not gonna argue.
I mean,
We're not gonna argue with it, so we're gonna leave it alone.
That machine was unplugged. He just wanted to get them out of there.
They just didn't let you vote on Mike. They let everybody else vote.
They gave me a green card.
We don't need that.
But-
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad they got back quickly, 'cause
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
Could I,
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted, I'm sure you all will probably do this, but over on our new longevity, is there gonna be like a Q&A or some, papers sent out to the employees?
Oh, yes,
so they
we,
know?
absolutely, no, absolutely. We will
I
send.
figured there would be, but.
No,
just
absolutely,
making-
we will send a notification out to the employees, because it's gonna create a change for HR, it's gonna create a change for the treasurer's office, it's gonna create a change for every elected official. So yes, we will send out a notification with an explanation, briefly. I don't see any of them saying, no, I wanna go back.
But I think there'll probably be some questions, and, you know.
Yes,
just-
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. Okay, well, we appreciate y'all coming. You certainly picked the absolute wrong day to come, because sometimes our commissioners' courts don't last that long, and we're going into a budget workshop. If you want to stay, you are more than welcome to stay. I know some of the elected officials will be interested in staying, but
Judge,
mostly,
still got number 15.
mostly these will want to stay. Oh, now what?
Number 15, that was the second amendment. I didn't.
Well, I don't even have a copy of the amendment. I thought I just did 15.
CDBG?
Yeah.
Yeah, on the tech
And I made the
stuff.
motion.
Yeah.
We got it back, what was it, 10? No?
No, we skipped,
one.
we skipped the budget workshop.
13. We skipped 13.
Thank you all very much for coming. Go this way if you want to give Becky your
Well,
information.
no, he's talking about the plat.
Oh, okay. Her and I were gonna do that tonight.
Can't do that till after the meeting.
If you need to sign the plat, I'm gonna take it in here. Sign it.
Let him sign it and we'll all sign it before we leave.
Yeah, we can. Are you back with us, Shalana?
Yes, I'm sorry, I wrote my numbers down.
That's fine. Okay.
You have a hard time voting on
Oregon,
I know. Very well. Okay, James. Okay, we're gonna resume court. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Okay, James, it's your show. Okay, let me kind of update everybody. So, because what we just voted on, and we just voted on the longevity, which is going to increase our budget. So one of the things that we did is we asked James to review, does everybody have this in their packet as well? The recommendations?
They have the recommendation, yeah, not that top page, but yeah.
Okay, as long as they have the recommendations. Okay, so what we asked him to do is to review all of the information, all of our financial information and our current position, our general fund, everything that we had. And we explained to him everything we were going through at this time and what our concerns were. So the place that we can alleviate, or the place that, the only location we could find that would alleviate some of the burden on general fund, was we also asked the historical commission to come back and give us an updated cost estimates. And if you will recall, the original projection was for $10,103,400 basically. And so the projection now is $921,583. So the cost increased to the county because we would have to incur the additional cost. The Historical Commission has given us the max that they can give us in terms of funds. So they've given us slightly under $5 million. So you see where they were gonna do 5, we were gonna do 5, we're gonna have a new courthouse. So, given the current, economic conditions, given the fact that we are, having huge problems with inflation, do you all have it? Yes. Yes. Given the fact that we have inflation, we know we have an issue, because the 3.5% revenue cap that the state has placed on us is only with regards to M&O. So it's only maintenance and operations that are impacted by the 3.5% revenue cap. The debt portion service of the rate is not subject to this cap. So we asked James to review everything, provided you all with the information. And so the long and the short is we could either borrow, go in and do tax notes in the amount of $8,180,000 and cover all of it. That would keep our reserves at 70%. We could go in and borrow $5,730,000, keep our reserves at 60%, or we could go in and borrow $3,280,000 and keep our reserves at 50%. So I'm gonna let James take it from there.
Well, thank you, Judge
They've
Murphy.
all been provided with your information, James.
I'm not sure I could provide a more concise explanation than that. But yes, in discussions with Judge Murphy and Carrie, we were talking about how, paying.
Something went wrong. Please try again.
Did I say Siri?
You must have seen Siri's responding.
Seriously.
Sorry.
No problem. We were discussing how, using cash to pay for the courthouse repair, how could that affect your finances going forward? How could it affect the county's outstanding bond rating? And looking at the projections for fiscal 2023, I think that the estimate was, the county anticipates about $17.4 million in available fund balances, and we looked at your projected expenditures, and so we said, we came up with these 3 scenarios just somewhat arbitrarily, but we looked at, what would the county might want to target to maintain as a percentage of your expenditures, how much do you want to maintain in reserves? And so we came up with these 3 scenarios, again, somewhat arbitrarily, but just for demonstration purposes. As Judge Murphy explained, you could finance the entire portion of the project. You could finance, approximately a little over half of the project, or, you know, a little less than half. And in all three scenarios, it looks like we could structure the debt service at the very least so that there's minimal impact on next year's tax rate, little to no impact on the tax rate. Y'all's existing debt service is dropping off over the next few years, and so.
James, hold on just a second, I know that they've all seen this a
We've seen
gazillion
it.
times,
Yeah, we've
but
seen
let me
it,
make
but
a copy
we
of
don't have
this
it
also.
today.
Thank you, ma'am. Y'all are gonna get the one with all my notes scribbled all over.
Yeah, I've got that at the office.
Yeah, because we sent it to y'all, but it should have been in your package. Okay, go ahead.
So I think the long and short of it is that you have a lot of flexibility if you wished, if you decided to finance all or a portion of the courthouse restoration. It looks like y'all could do it without impacting the tax rate possibly at all. So, and a large part of that is because your existing debt is dropping off. That y'all have adopted the policy of issuing short-term debt, not going out for 20 years or 30 years. And so that's kept y'all's outstanding debt very short.
Okay, so if you look at, this is what it's referencing, if you look at 2023, this is where the judicial center falls off. And this is our budget year where it falls off. And so keep in mind that these would be the tax notes, so they would be 7 years, right? So if we add the courthouse, regardless of how much we decide to add, then that would fall off after 2023. And when he's talking about structuring the debt, then he would do the same thing that he did with these others, is you look and see what other debt is occurring with the county, and then you structure it in there to where the county is never completely overburdened by payment of notes, or obviously you have to pay your interest, but nevertheless, we would not be overburdened by the payment of notes. So if you look at that, right now, waste service is a contractual obligation that for energy savings, which has been working. And so we have the judicial center fall off, and we have our Series 2016 tax notes fall off. The Series 2016 tax notes are not a big impact on our budget at this time. So, since basically, the state's basically penalizing you for not incurring debt, is what it boils down to. Because when they cap your M&O, but you can still incur debt. And the part of it that makes me slightly concerned is because I think that as, you wanna see this?
Bruce, you want a copy?
Yeah.
Needs one.
As I see this moving forward, then if we're holding on to money, and then we need to borrow money, and inflation has taken interest rates high at a time when we might need money, then it might be better to alleviate it while rates are low, and then potentially save some of our money further down the road as well. And if we can do it without affecting the tax rate, well, then we will not be putting an excessive burden on our taxpayers.
So borrow the money now, possibly, and not prolong it.
And keep in mind also with our reserves, part of why the reserves become an issue is keep in mind with the tornado, we had $2.2 million basically that came out of our general fund, right, to provide assistance for that tornado. And I will say, thank goodness for the TxDOT debris removal
STAR
program, because we would have been broke.
Thank you,
What was that? Was it about 10 million the total debris removal, give or take?
It's more than that, Judge.
See, the last count I looked at was a little over 10 million, and so we would have just had to basically declare bankruptcy over a tornado. And so it.
Thank you, Courtney, for finding that program.
We'd all chipped in, been out there helping.
Yeah, it would have taken us 15 years.
We're still
We're still working
we're
on
still
it.
working on it, but we wouldn't be near far along.
Anyway, so what we've provided you is basically the assessment that James made. And so take a look at basically what his breakdown is in terms of how the court is interested in proceeding. Because we would like to hold on to our reserves.
By 2025, look at all you're taking off.
Yes, sir, and that's why I'm saying
So,
that
I mean, by 2025,
if
you
you,
got
yeah,
three big hits going.
yeah, and so we're not, we've done a good job of reducing our debt and keeping our debt down. But part of it, okay, when we moved all the vehicles into the budget, instead of incurring debt to pay, for vehicles and equipment every year, then to me, that's a more factual, honest location in the budget for vehicles to be, because we literally had vehicles that we had not owned for 4 or 5 years, and we were paying interest on them, but we didn't even own them. But because they were on a tax note for 7 years, we were still paying for them. So I think we're moving in the right direction, but I do think that our debt needs to be related to buildings, to things that are permanent equipment and permanent structures that aren't necessarily going to.
Judge, what is the amount of reserve that they recommend that we have?
They recommend that we have around 50% because of the, that we have no less than 50%. But I think that that's taking us a little close to the edge, and which is the same thing that James, that's why we stopped at the 50% reserves.
If you take the natural disasters out, it's about 25.
Yeah, but we've had.
If you take the
3
natural
or 4 of
disasters,
those
that's
in the
what I'm
last-
saying.
Yeah.
You could, if you could take that equation out, you could be down to 25%, like they say, 25% reserve. But then if you don't get federal or state assistance, then you're
So why
slammed.
wouldn't we borrow the full amount since the interest rates are lower? And keep our reserve?
I'm not averse to that at all. I'm not averse to that at all, because then that gives us more flexibility in our general fund. And come on, we all know that the state's gonna say, yeah, this is what it's gonna cost you, but then there's gonna be a lot of but,
Mhm.
right? And we still have the parking lot out there that's gonna be a cost that I don't think necessarily belongs in a commissioner's budget. That parking lot for the courthouse should be fixed through general fund. Whose precinct is it in now?
Who knows? Milks? Milks.
We think. No. I think Eileen comes in and gets debt.
I think Eileen,
I'm just
I
trying
think
to
it
keep real
sneaks in,
quiet.
yeah, I think it sneaks in against Eileen.
I think, but now she might not get on that side of the street, I can't remember.
Oh, here we go.
That could be a community project.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well,
Community project.
nevertheless, I think
Yeah,
that's
that's-
something that should come out
Send
of
the
the
city
general
limits,
fund.
that's the city fix.
So,
Yeah.
okay, James, you
Yeah,
wanna
that
kinda
That's a better idea.
go through some of this and kind of explain what it would do in terms of the debt service for each of those?
Certainly, there's after this cover page, there's a kind of a summary page, a summary of assumptions. And the results are laid out on that top right corner, summary of scenarios. But the following page, scenario 1 that just assumes that the county would borrow the entire amount and maintain reserves at approximately 70% of expenditures So on that page, on the, kind of on the left side of the page, we have your assessed valuation and the estimated assessed valuation for next year. You got your outstanding, your combined outstanding debt service, and you can see that your principal is dropping off over the next few years. For most of the life of the debt. We're showing the estimated debt service for the financing the entire portion of the courthouse. We arrived at a grand total, and on the right side of the page, we're calculating the debt service tax rate based on your assessed valuation. You can see your outstanding debt service going forward in the future, the tax rate's going to drop off. If you added in the courthouse financing, kind of layered in, and it looks like you could achieve a relatively level debt tax rate for the next 3-4 years.
Okay, then you've got scenario number 2.
The following page is financing a little over half of the cost, half of the county's portion. You see, we still are able to maintain about the same tax rate for next year, and then the tax rate continues to drop off in fiscal '24 and beyond. And the final page, just about a little under $5 million contributed from the county's fund balance. That require about a financing amount of about $3.28 million. See that would your tax rate would likely begin dropping off even next year. The tax rate might go down a little bit depending on the final assessed valuation for next year.
Well, and keep in mind also that really as much growth as we're seeing, the impact, that we should see the impact of that, which is not built into this because there's no way of us anticipating exactly what the growth is going to look like. But we do know growth is coming. Goodness, we approve a subdivision plat sometimes 2 or 3 times, 2 or 3 at one time. And so we know growth is coming. And but that growth, those monies could be used on our M&O side, for employee raises and so forth.
They're not subject to the cap.
Correct. The first year is not.
Yeah, the
The first year is not. The first year is not, but the second is. And so, but what I'm saying is that as growth occurs, right, then that growth, that increased revenue can be utilized for M&O and not for debt service, because M&O is where we are capped.
Makes sense.
My concern is, what's this gonna cost us when we really start turning dirt over there? You're saying, with inflation, who's, how much money do we need to borrow? We gotta set us a max here. How we gonna work it out if it comes out over 10 million? Is it 12?
Then we already know it's gonna come out at 12.
12.
Because that's the projection.
That's not the county's portion.
No, that's the total projection.
I'm just saying though,
No,
if we borrow, say 8 here. 9.
So what's about $1 million built into that total for inflation and contingencies? So they're already projecting the inflation.
They include the historical
In this
commission.
number that you gave us?
Yes, the historical commission includes, their final estimate includes some for inflation. It includes 10% for contingencies and 5% for inflation, as we sit in a 7.5 or 8% inflation rate. So I think that Commissioner Overstreet's concern is valid, that we know, and that's what's my point about the parking lot, is that we know that something's gonna come along, they're gonna say, oh no, we gotta do this, or we gotta change that, or we gotta modify this. Jessica is already dealing with that.
Change orders.
Yes, with change orders, and she's already dealing with them coming in saying, you know, we need to adjust for this, or this portion was not included.
Got a pretty healthy fund balance. I think we should at least pay some on, I'm not part of financing all of it, but that's reason it's 5 of us here, y'all vote like you want. I'm not for financing all of it. You got valid points, why we should, but I can pay down on something, I'm gonna pay down on. That's just, me personally.
I think we all operate kind of that same theory.
Yeah.
But when they put this M&O cap on us, it makes you have to rethink things too. And I don't want to see us have to borrow the whole amount, not with the heavy fund balance we have, but how much of that fund balance are we gonna have to make the budget work too?
What's the interest rate on our debt service?
On what?
The debt service?
3.75.
Yeah, see, if you look at this compared to the other ones, you can already see that the interest rates, the debt services was going up. It's already trending up. I'm sorry, this all looks like the 80s to me.
Yeah.
When mortgage rates were 20%. And so the thought of getting caught in that, to me, is horrifying.
So if we put some in the debt service, though, the interest rate on that is probably gonna trend up on it.
Not for us, we're gonna lock it in. See, that's the whole idea, we would lock it in, right, at 3.75 or whatever we manage to get it at. So if we get it at 3.75 and interest rates go to 8%, well then, we're in good shape. And if they go up to 10 and 12, then we're in really good shape. And the truth of the matter is that then Terry is gonna get money on her investments if it goes up like that.
What I'm seeing, it's gonna go up every year every time the Feds meet.
And so
The
if we
interest
get in
rate's gonna go up.
so if we get in a bind and we have to use a fair amount of our reserves that we have now, we have to go borrow money,
That's right.
then the future monies is what we may have.
It's the future money I'm concerned about. I don't have a crystal ball. Lewis doesn't, Carrie doesn't, Terry doesn't, none of us have a crystal ball, but it's just the way the stars are lining up right now.
Yeah, it's supposed to live through the 80s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, I guess my point is I'm not averse to, if the court wants to borrow the whole amount, that's fine, because then that gives us more ability to maneuver in the general fund and try to get additional raises, try to get additional things balanced out. If you wanna go with the 4.9 million, I'm not averse to that either. You know, cause at least it creates some flexibility for us, and then I don't think we're gonna be in a jam further down the road. So if the court wants to take and pay some out of it and go to 50% reserves, I'm fine with that. Because I think that at 50% reserves, then, you know, I would rather be at 60 or 70% reserves. So I think that we need to borrow
So what do we do if we
some,
lock?
if not all.
So what do we do if we lock in at the 12,921,583, and then it comes along, like Tommy was saying, we gotta have another $1.5 million.
Then it's gonna have to come out of the general fund.
So then you've double dipped twice out of the general fund.
And and we may have to do that. I think what the court needs to decide today is, A, do you want to go ahead and move forward with doing tax notes? And B, in how much? How much do you wanna do?
Well, what other debt are we gonna have added on to this when we issue our debt after, at the end of the summer? How much debt are we gonna incur to do another tax note for our needs?
Oh, and now,
Now I'm talking.
that's gonna be minimalized, right? Because we have moved our largest block,
Yeah,
that
that's
usually
sheriff's
incurred debt, we've moved that into the general fund, which is the vehicles.
Yeah.
You know, every year we had a million and a half
Yeah.
requests for vehicles.
From the sheriff's office.
From the sheriff's office, from the DA's office, from maintenance, from everybody.
You know, all our wants.
That's right, and all of that has now been moved into the general fund, which of course then affects us on the M&O cap.
Yeah.
So I can't quote what we have you right this instant in terms of projected capital outlay, but it is not anywhere close to $1 million, which is what it has been every year in the past, for as
Yeah.
long as I've been here.
It's under 150.
See, right now, $150,000 of capital projection.
That would be with interest, I believe.
Yeah, see, so we've gotten
So
that.
that's out.
We've got that manageable.
Okay.
And so incurring debt for the courthouse is not gonna negatively impact us.
And if the court wished to finance those emissions of tax notes, it would be most economical to include it.
Put them all in one.
Yes.
Well, we're not gonna do that till, well, that wouldn't be closer to the end of the budget year, right?
Well, if he was going out for bids on some of this, we would just give him an amount.
Right, but we would know what that amount was. Roughly, right now, we just think right on, around 150,000.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah, I'm not real concerned about our capital outlay projections, our requests, because I think those are manageable. Managed right now. This is what potentially is not an easily managed amount.
Which way do you think it involves the least risk?
Again, I go back to the 80s. I wish I'd had a ball back then that I could look into, and I would have put all my money in the stock market and CDs and bonds, and I'd have never had to work another day in my life. If I was making 15% on CDs.
Really afraid there's gonna be a lot of stuff in a couple of years,
That's-
not near what they paid for it.
That's right. That's the other thing to consider.
That's what I'm scared of.
Is crashes.
Put 500,000 into something that's worth about 250.
Yeah.
That's right, so you wait for it to come down to that 250 mark before you buy it. But my concern is that interest rates are going to go up substantially.
So we need a motion or a recommendation, or,
No, I need a motion.
well, I'm gonna shoot the middle with y'all. I'll make a motion that we pay the 2.45 million out of the fund balance and finance the rest. Leaves the fund balance at 60%.
Okay, comes as a motion, scenario number 2.
I'll go along with that, I'll second that.
Commissioner Purvis, second.
Leave it at 60%.
Huh?
I think 60% would be, leave it at 60.
Very well. Commissioner Overstreet, seconds. All in favor say aye. For any further discussion or questions? trip.
Appreciate that.
Your turn, Tom.
Are we sure?
I hope I get.
Are we sure? Most to adjourn.
No, it's not
No,
your turn.
It's not my turn, that's what I'm saying.
And actually,
We still got it.
we have B, which is going to be a long one, so the question is, do you all want to recess and come back?
Yeah, we got to get it over. Let's get it
Yeah, it's,
on.
huh?
Let's get it on.
It's up to you. It's quarter to 12.
Which one we doing?
13B.
Distribution.
13B, oh yeah, I thought I seen that in here.
I'll table that. I'll make a motion to table it the next time.
Yeah, Ms. Scott, I'll be coming with her.
Okay, y'all ready for it?
Listen, all I need to know is you all tell me
I don't have.
what you want the distribution to look like. I just need a formula.
Fair and equitable.
Fair and equitable. So you want me to come up with a fair and equitable, is that what it boils down to?
How much,
I'd like to see it stay the same. and
I don't have
that-
numbers.
I'd like to see it stay the same as it is now, and anytime that the commissioners have a bridge that needs to be repaired that is not on the off-bridge system program, that we go and help them with the general fund.
I don't think you can do that.
it
Because
used
he
to be
has-
that way.
Yeah, all kinds of things used to be that way. I think you have way too much mileage that has been increased in some of your, and the
I
road,
agree with that.
and certainly, just give me a value on the bridges, you know, just tell me. 10% of the money is going to be distributed according to bridges. And so we all know, Milt's gonna get the most of that money, someone else is gonna get a second of that money, someone else is gonna get less, right? We know that. Just tell me what percentage of the money you want for bridges, and then let me know how you want to distribute it by mileage. Because the rest of the mileage, you can distribute it according to actual mileage. All of y'all need to go look at your miles.
I've
We're
done
gonna
that.
do it clean.
I've done that. I've measured every single road.
Well, I have.
No wonder you wanted to take it.
You know,
You didn't do your homework assignment.
I haven't either, so.
Oh, two of you didn't do your
Well,
homework
I
assignment.
kinda look at it this way, I've been using that same system for 20 years with what they've provided us with over there out of that, and it's worked.
And
I
I'm
mean,
not-
none of us have been shortchanged that bad, I have to argue that with you.
Yeah, the thing about it
But
is.
how
Judge, if you take-
how many miles difference do you have now? How many more miles do you have now than what you had, they said you had? 20-something?
I was at 100 and I'm now up to right at 156.
In precinct, in the new precinct lines?
Yes, that is correct, the
And
current.
And the current, what you got from
What I will
precinct, what you will take over from precinct 1?
October 1st of 2022. And here's the deal, Judge, I'm sympathetic to their needs for the repair of bridges.
I'm sympathetic
okay?
to all four of my children.
All right, I
just so
understand
we're
that, I
clear.
get that. But here's the deal, what little bit of money that they're gonna receive is not really gonna help them in a sense of, I mean, the bridges that we repair, what, on the average, what do they cost?
I just repaired one, it's like $26,000.
There you go. But he said the other day that
Is
he.
that a little or a lot?
Well, it's always a lot.
It's a lot in your
But the,
budget.
part- the, what I was saying was is that he made a comment the other day, Tommy did, that he had around 7 or 8 bridges that were not on the off-system
Mhm.
bridge program, okay? So,
Okay, can I make a
But you still
suggestion?
have to find-
Can I make a
understand.
suggestion? This is just how I think. Okay, so if you tell me that all of y'all are gonna go look at your mileage, come up with your mileage, correct? And that 90% of the money that is allocated to you all will be just split on mileage, and that 10% of it will be on bridges, based on bridges. There, done. That's all I wanna know. I just want a basic formula that makes sense.
so the difference is I was wanting to take it out of the general fund, you want to take it out of our yearly budget.
Well, yeah, because we wanna put the money in there. based on the
Speak up,
tax
Ms.
rate,
Guy.
which is what goes to commissioners.
Speak up.
Don't measure me. Hey, you four are the ones that have to decide this. I just need to know how to put it in the budget.
Because I lost mine to 3 and 4.
You lost to everybody. Ronnie got Indian Hills.
Yeah.
I got to
I didn't
19.
lose to, you know.
I got to
There's already
1988.
things I need to be done in there.
And the thing about 10 years from now, when they redo this census that they got wrong this time, they're gonna
It's
change it
all
all
gonna
over
change
back.
again.
Cause I didn't lose any people in the last 10 years. I didn't lose 12% of my population.
I know.
And that's just, so. I don't know. But I ain't gonna be here in office in 12 years, in 10 years to know, so I'm imagine.
I don't know why, so.
And I'm not gonna be here next year. But I don't want our precinct to be at a disadvantage.
Well, no, ain't nobody trying to take.
Ain't nobody trying to beat nobody out of
That's
nothing.
what I say.
Okay.
Y'all should've went with me. We should've
You
taken
two
this to the next
delinquents,
time.
I'm
go
fine
do
with
your
that.
homework.
I'm fine with it. We need more time. I mean, it's early yet, correct?
We have-
Motion to table.
We have a motion to table.
I second that
We
motion.
only we only gonna have so much money to divide between the four of us anyway, so all they gotta do is just give us a number and we can work it out.
Well, but you need to work it out for the next person, the next person, and the next.
Oh, I understand that, I understand that. I'm not leaving this county either, so I mean, I understand.
Okay, I have a motion to table from Commissioner Purvis, seconded by Commissioner Robertson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now Commissioner Overstreet.
Motion adjourned. Second. How about you go buy me 5 wheels, roller wheels, and be sure they hold it right.
Hey, I just bought some brand new ones. You can use ours since we finished.
Oh, that's fine.
But I'll give you a little